So today we've got the lovely Dawn and Danny Sandhu, and they are going to tell us their story about their son Jalen and his loss by homicide tragically 6 years ago, and the process that you guys went through with the police investigation, the court system, your healing, and then finally how you guys are strong advocates and community supporters, and you're available to help others with their losses as well. So thanks so much for taking the time to join us here today.
Thank you.
So first off, tell us about Jaylen.
Go ahead, Mom.
So Jaylen was 17, and he was an awesome kid, of course. He's an athlete and very popular, very handsome, and just had a great sense of humor. He was very well liked and loved by many. So
Good.
He's an awesome guy.
Yeah. And it showed at his service.
Yeah.
I think there was like 1,300 people that showed up at his service.
Yeah.
People were in the parking lot. I was overwhelmed.
Yeah.
To see how many people he actually touched.
Yeah.
Person. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so tragic, the loss, and I'm gonna have to ask you, more about that though, to help people understand, where have you come from? And so tell us what happened.
It was a weird day. I just had a funny feeling. Like every time I'd message him or call him, if he didn't answer, he'd respond within 5-10 minutes. And this particular day, he just wouldn't respond. Like I'm like, what's going on? This guy's like, he's usually on top of it. He'll let me know, Dad, I'm here. I'll call you in a bit or whatever. And he never responded. And I was downtown meeting Dawn, and I saw her and I was like, hon, it's kind of weird. I've been texting Jay and he's not responding. And I didn't want her to panic, but I had a funny feeling already. And she's like, oh, he's fine. He's just hanging out with his buddies. He'll call you when he gets a chance. Day went on. Got home from downtown and still nothing. And it's getting dark now and no response. And
it was late at that point.
Yeah, it was getting late. It was like 10, 11 o'clock. And I was like, you know what? School night, this is not right. We called the police. Nothing. No, actually, no, they came and they took some DNA and his toothbrush and asked us what he was wearing. And the next morning, I have a cousin that's RCMP. So I next morning we didn't hear nothing, so I called him. And I was like, hey, you know what? Jay never came home last night. If you can help me, like, who do I get in touch with to find out what's going on? Police were here last night, and he said he'd look into it and get back to me. But an hour later, he showed up at my door, and he said, we're just waiting for a few more guys to show up. And as soon as he said that, I knew it was bad. I was hoping I just kind of prepared myself for the worst at that point. And as soon as they showed up, they broke the news to us that he was gone. And details were a little blurry at that point, but we were just, I just remember Dawn screaming and me punching a wall. Then after that, it was just kind of
a blur.
Yeah, it was just, I don't think I remember anything after that for the first 6 months. Yeah. And just disbelief. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Sorry for your loss.
That when they came to the house was, I just didn't believe it. I just didn't believe it still when they were coming in and stuff. So it was, it was horrible. I don't even know if that's
worse.
Yeah, it's you can't even describe it. It's undescribable. Yeah.
And then you mentioned when we talked about kind of how the case moved along, you mentioned to me that they had an idea of who the boy was
Mhm.
who had stabbed Jalen, and it took 16 months to arrest him.
Mhm.
So, from your perspective, can you share kind of why that was and what was going on with the investigation?
So now I know why. They knew who it was because Jalen said who he was going to meet and told some friends, and was, I guess it was a bit of a leery situation. He felt. So anyways, he fled. He fled. He fled the city. And he was
The
no longer
perpetrator,
here.
the
Sorry.
the perpetrator, the murderer,
Yeah.
fled
Yeah, he fled right away.
right after
No,
the incident.
yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as people found out, people started showing up at the house. His friends were like, it's this kid, this is his name, this is his name.
We'd never heard of him.
Never heard of him. He was just new to the school. Don't even know how he got into the school, because I don't know, because he had a history.
A terrible history, a violent history.
A troublemaker. And then at that point, but at the end of the day, justice system works in the way that if there's no evidence, there's nothing they can do.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, I feel like justice system is built against us as the victims.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unbelievable how they can get off on a little technicality, or boy, there's not enough evidence. You got his blood in the car, you got this, you got that, but still it's not enough.
Yeah.
And it was a tough road, and you don't expect it to happen to you. You see it on the news. You watch it on the news, and it's like, oh my God, I feel so bad for this family. But when it hits home and you actually go through the process, it is a lot harder and mentally draining, physically draining, just to hear some of the things they're going to say and be like, no, we can't do this right now. We don't have enough. We can't do this. We can't do that. And it's frustrating, especially when you just want answers to why. And I understand they can't share any information with us. That makes sense, because at the end of the day, if they tell us something, we go to court, the defense attorney is going to use it against us. Oh, it's hearsay.
Or we tell our friends or something, and all, family, friends, everybody wants to know what's going on. That's a hard piece. That's really hard to digest. So when IHIT would ask us, do you guys have any questions for us? We always say nope, because the questions we want to ask, we know you can't answer. So just leave it at that.
Yeah.
We didn't bother because we just basically came to a point where we, we had to put it in their hands because
this is what they do.
This is what they do, yeah.
And let them do their job.
Mm-hmm.
And I understood that the more we called, the more we bothered them, the less time they're working on the case, because they're always answering to us. So I was like, you know what? Let them do their job. We need to deal with what's going on with Jay.
Mm-hmm.
Let them do their job, and we need to do our healing and try to start our healing process anyways. Mm-hmm. And we have other kids
who are grown, but still,
mm-hmm. His friends, family, everybody.
Our friends.
Yeah. So it got to a point. Well, let's pray for the best, but prepare yourself for the worst.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's like we just let them do their job. Mm-hmm. And every time they had something, they'd call us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like they were avoiding us or anything like that.
No.
So.
And what was it? What was it they were doing that 16 months? Do you know?
Well, they were collecting evidence. They were, every time they collect evidence, they have to take it to the Crown. The Crown has to approve or, ask for more, all that. So there were so many things going on behind the scenes. I think that, people don't realize it takes so much for charges to stick. And I think, you
especially
know,
building a solid
you
case.
want to build a solid case. Yeah.
You know, you don't want to go to court too early because there's not enough evidence.
Yeah.
What's the point?
Yep.
Once he gets acquitted, he's acquitted. He got away with murder.
That's it.
And so we're like,
Done.
okay, let them do their job. And you know what? And it was frustrating at times, but it was also, I kind of understood.
Yeah.
You know, we watch enough Dateline in 48 hours to kind of
like, let's wrap this up.
know the process, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we let them do their job, and anytime they had questions or they found a new piece of evidence, they call us. You know, was Jay wearing this? Did he have this? What kind of wallet did he have? Whatever they found, they kept us in the loop.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that's all we could ask for. And so we started our process of trying to. The first thing was, it's like, okay, we gotta prepare of, you know, funeral services for our son. And so we kind of
at Christmas.
So we kind of focused on that, and
Just horrible.
you know what, it was a numb feeling. Like I said, it was a blur. It really hit me. It actually really hit me the day after his service, because that's when people stopped coming around. You know, no phone calls, and you're by yourself. And that's when it hit me that my son is gone. You know, the week leading up to the service, everybody's there every day. They're getting pictures together, doing a slideshow. And so it was weird. And then that's the next day, I think we buried him on Boxing Day because he loved to shop. So we thought what a perfect day, like, to have his service. And then the 27th, it hit me hard. And I remember waking up that day and nobody was around, just going straight to the liquor cabinet and pouring myself a drink. And that's how I was for my first 2 months. I just kind of numbed myself by drinking. But I finally got to a point where I was like, as soon as I sober up, the pain's still there. So I think Dawn and my mom, they kind of sat me down, my sister, and they said, you need to feel the pain. You need to work through the pain.
Yeah.
And at that point, I realized I did have other kids.
Yeah.
Dawn, my mom, my sister, my whole family. And I kind of stopped drinking, and I kind of worked myself through the pain, you know. Cried a lot, which actually helped, to my surprise. I was not a crier before that, but yeah. And then it got to a point where I was like, okay, now let's take the next step of healing. And I think when we decided to go to counseling.
A group.
We went to a group. I think it might have been a little too early and too fresh, because we were still in the numb phase.
It was in April.
Yeah. So this happened December. It was April we went.
4 months.
5 months. And it was just some of the things. I couldn't look at pictures of Jay. I broke down. And I think a couple of weeks into the sessions, they were saying, oh, we want you to bring a picture of your deceased and share a memory, this and that. And I couldn't do it. It was too fresh. And Dawn was the opposite. She had pictures of him everywhere. And you know, and that's the thing. I think it's hard in the way that I understand now how couples, when they lose a child, the grieving process, everybody's at different stages of it, and they clash. Like, she kept putting up pictures, I kept putting them down, and you know, it's little things like that just built up, and it finally got to a point where I was like, you know what? She said to me, we need to remember him, we need to honor him. And I was like, you know what? You're right. And I was also consumed with him, the perpetrator. I let him consume me for so long that it took focus off my son.
Mhm.
And my job as a parent was to honor him and remember him, and not to have this guy who took my son away consume my life, which I was letting happen.
Mhm.
And as soon as I kind of forgot about him, let him out of my thoughts, I moved on and I focused on my son, started the foundation. We give scholarships out every year in his honor at his high school. We donate money to whoever needs it. We don't, you know, with COVID, it's been kind of hard the last year, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, it is what it is. We got to work through it.
We went to his graduation.
Yeah, go to his graduation every year,
Oh, you did?
and we'd actually meet the students that got the scholarship. We let the school choose the scholarship because we don't know these kids,
The students.
the
Yeah.
students. You know, you guys know them. You know what they need, and we also asked the school to pick students that didn't have money, didn't have who once they finished school wouldn't be going to post-secondary because they couldn't afford it. So we offered $2,000 scholarships, and we told them, you pick the students that want to go to post-secondary but can't really afford it. And then they asked us, what do you want them to use the money for? I go, whatever they need, books, transportation, whatever is going to help them pursue what they want to do in life.
Mhm.
They can use it towards anything. I don't need to know what they're spending it on, as long as it's helping them move forward in life. So
Super great of you
Yeah.
guys. And that's the Jaylen Foundation, right?
yeah, Jalen
You have
Sandhu
an
Dreams Foundation.
annual-
Yeah.
You had an annual pub night.
We had a pub night.
To raise
We
the
do
fund.
we've done I've teamed up a friend of mine, Al. He works for not works, but he volunteers for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and he does a lot of work for them, raises a lot of money for them. So I want to do a golf tournament he does every year. So, I approached him and he said, why don't we do it together? He's already established. And so we kind of teamed up, and we started doing a golf tournament. We do a softball tournament. And just, bring it's been amazing. It's been huge. So
So generous of you guys.
yeah. So yeah.
Make meaning out of this really traumatic loss.
Yeah. And you know what, that's at the end of the day, that's all we can do. Like I said, it took me a while to get to the point but then to honor him, to remember him. You can't forget him. We had an amazing 17 years with him, and the memories, the person he is. Like to this day, we still, I'll be driving down the street and I'll drive by something, I'll see something that reminds me of him, and I'll cry,
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've gone to the point where I'm used to crying, and it's okay, because once I cry for a couple minutes, I get it out, and I'm like, okay, it's time to move on. Like I don't know what it is. I feel cleansed. I feel refreshed. Okay, I've had my moment with him. Let's go on, continue with the rest of the day. So, which is kind of weird to me, because I'm total opposite person than I was before all this. And
Yeah, you mentioned that to me.
yeah, and it sucks that it took the loss of my son for me to be who I am today. I just wish he was around to see who I am today as a person.
Yeah, you mentioned to me you're more spiritual, more forgiving, calmer. You don't sweat the small things.
No. I will say I hate noise though. Before I didn't mind, because when he was around, we'd have fight nights. Our friends, his friends, and we'd watch the fights. We'd barbecue, but now, like, a little bit of noise, like Dawn, she's a loud person.
I like it.
She's a loud person, and you know what? She'll have her friend over. They'll be having a couple drinks, watching the fights. I'll be like, "Can you turn it down?" They're like, "Turn it up." I was like, "Turn it down." So it's
It might just be your old age.
it could be. But you know what? But I just like peace now and quiet.
We do, yeah.
And it's just, it's amazing how I've, like, it's a complete 180 to what I was like before. And it's crazy. I didn't think, I used to grow up thinking I'm like my dad. He's stubborn, he's old school. Ended up being more like my mom, who's very spiritual, goes to church every day, very peaceful, calm.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird.
Yeah. Yeah. Dawn, you mentioned something when you were talking about your process. I remember Danny was mentioning that day after, and then it got quiet. I remember you saying something about that day that the house was full of
Mhm,
people
mhm.
and that you just needed to leave.
Yeah, when I
Yeah.
got in my car.
Yeah. And about driving.
Yeah, yeah. So I
Yeah.
got, that was the next day, and um, probably 2 days after everything had happened, and there were so many people in the house coming by, paying respects, and I just thought I need to get out of this house. I need to be somewhere else right now. And my one of my closest, dearest friends lives up the street from me, and she was actually there. She was there when everything happened. She had come over that morning. So she was right there with it, and has been through this process too. But I had to leave. I had to get in my car, and I felt like I needed to drive. I needed to drive now, because I knew that if I didn't get in my car and drive, that I potentially would never be able to get in the car and drive again. I just had a feeling that I needed to do that. So I went with it. And I remember her saying, "Do you want me to drive?" And I said, "No, no, I need to drive. I need to drive." I just felt like I was going to lose maybe my independence, or not sure what it was, but I just thought, no, I'll freeze up and I won't be able to just do a simple task like drive. And
Mhm.
then I remember just the simple tasks. Speaking of that, the first time going to a grocery store, the first time doing the smallest things. I mean, Jalen was in high school, he was in, grade 12, but there's still things you buy your child from the grocery store, even though he was in grade 12, and,
Mhm.
you know, he still like things, like goldfish. He still ate goldfish crackers and stuff like that. And I remember the first time going to the grocery store and going down the aisle and seeing the goldfish crackers and just starting to cry, Nope, can't go down there. No, can't go down that one. No, mm-mm. So just looping around the grocery store in like a complete fog, because I couldn't even see the foods that I used to buy him.
Mm.
It was just, it was crazy. It was crazy. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned you went to that first support group too soon. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, but what about you did end up getting support, but it was a little bit later, right? Did you
It
find that
was.
group a little bit later and met with?
So for me, I didn't feel like the support group was too soon.
Okay.
I was super catatonic. I was frozen. I was like robotic. But for me, I don't think I absorbed much
Mm-hmm.
when I went. I remember the first day we were going, and we were all three of us were dreading it. Because my stepdaughter was with us,
Okay.
and she came to it too. And then I remember how silent the car ride was there, just silence. And we all really forced ourselves to go. But once I remember getting there and meeting the people that were there, I felt so much relief, because I really, in those times, I felt like I was the only one experience all these weird emotions. I thought they were weird. I thought the way you grieve was like that circle. I can't remember what it's called, and it's in, in counseling and that.
Is it like Kubler-Ross linear?
Yes.
There's a
So,
process to this, supposedly. Yeah.
Yeah. So the process, and it goes in a circle, and it'll say grief, anger, sadness, this, that. And I remember looking at the paper and saying, right in the group, I showed her, the counselor, and I said, is this supposed to happen in this order? Because it's not happening in this order. So I'm already thinking I'm maybe possibly losing my mind. And then I'm thinking, now I'm not grieving in the right order. And she said, no, Dawn, it's actually the way it's laid out. It shouldn't be laid out like that. It's supposed to be all the different emotions, but I thought it was supposed to be 1, grief, 2, sadness, 3, anger. And I was like, but I have them all over the place. Yeah. And she explained it to me that no, it's not like that. Okay, so I'm normal,
To
but I'm
clarify,
crazy.
was this a homicide grief support group? So
it was
in there had lost by homicide. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like you got something out of it. And then you went back a couple of years later.
Yes. To a different group, closer to home. And that was a different.
Yeah. I went and saw somebody through work, and just one-on-one, just by myself. And I just didn't like a comment he made. You know what, he might have slipped up on his wording or whatever he did, I don't know, but he said, I kind of understand what you're going through now. And then I asked him, I go, have you lost a child? And he's like, no. I go, actually, let me rephrase that. Have you lost a child through murder? And he was like, no. I go, then how can you even know how I feel? And I kind of just got up and left. And then we were talking with what was her name from Victim Services,
Rummy
from Victim Services. And she's like, you know what, you may want to talk to this person. And she gave me Marlon's number. And she said that she'd lost a child through murder.
Yeah, and that's Marlon Ferguson, who was at the time working for Ali G Funeral Home. Yeah, so tell me about that. Tell me about that support group.
Yeah, so it wasn't the support. We just went and met her, me, Dawn, and our daughter. And because Remy said that she lost a child through the same circumstances. And we met up with her for about half an hour, 45 minutes. We just went to her office and we talked. And I was sitting there and I was looking at her. I'm like, oh my God. I think at this point it was probably 10 years for her. And at that point I realized, okay, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. She's lived through it. She's here. And that's when I was just like, okay. And then she mentioned, you know what, they do these support groups and on a weekly basis, like 8-week courses, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, you know what? I think that's what we need to do. And so we decided, I think it was after the arrest and the plea deal that we went to the support group. Because at this point,
that was 16 months from the
yeah. So at this point, we're like, okay, he's taken care of. He's been caught. He's in jail. Now let's really focus on our healing. That's one less thing we need to worry about. And so we can really focus on what we need to do now to move forward. And that's when we went to the first group. And yeah, it was amazing. It was huge.
I think it's really important for people to understand that, you know, I find that people around us, we had so much support. We had so much support, but I find that when people are around, they want, you know, they just want us to be better. And, but there's a lot of, have you tried counseling? Have you tried this? Have you tried that? And I think people get pushed in so many directions as to what's right. And I think it's really important for people to know what's right for you and what's right for me might be different. And it's okay. Go with your gut. If you feel like you don't want to go to counseling, don't go. If you don't want to go to a group, don't go. If you feel like you're not ready or you never want to, it's okay. Do exactly what you feel is going to heal your heart. It's not up to anyone else. I would never say to someone, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. You know, I've been through this with a very close friend of mine as well, who lost her son 3 years ago. And I remember just choosing my words, definitely more careful than I ever would before. You don't have to relive your story for people that you don't know or do know. When people are asking what happened, because it's an untimely passing, and a homicide. I would suspect is a similar grieving process to a car accident. It's so quick, it's so unexpected. You know, it's what you want to do. It's what you feel is right. And I can tell you, we didn't agree on everything. It was not like how we're talking now and oh, there was like resistance. I don't think so. If he wanted to do something, go ahead. If I wanted to do it for my healing, go ahead. To do it together, some things I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. Not my thing.
Yeah.
And I would say, and don't get pissed off because I'm not doing it, or he would say that to me, you know. That's the way you're going to heal. This is the way I'm going to do it. And when we do it together, great. And if we don't, we don't. You know, we both have different things that we do, ritual sort of, I don't want to say, sort of ritual things that I do that he didn't even know I did, you know, and I just took it upon myself to do these little things quietly. And just made my heart a little more little piece more full, little bit. Little bit.
But with that being said, I was against counseling.
Yeah.
In my culture,
fine.
Counseling is not something you do.
No.
You go to church, temple every day, and that's where you kind of focus your energy on. And I was against it. I was like, no. But then I got to a point, be like, you know what I'm doing is not working. I need to try something outside my box and step into a place where I got to give something else a try. And when I went, I was amazed and at how opening up and talking to people that are going through the same thing we're going through and sharing our stories, how I don't know, it felt like I could be myself.
Yeah.
I didn't have to hide anything. I didn't have to pretend to be somebody I'm not, or pretend that I'm not feeling this, I'm not feeling that. I could be myself. I can cry. I can let loose. I can just let my feelings flow, and which was amazing, which helped me a lot. Now I feel like, you know what, like Dawn said, don't go if you're not ready. But at the end of the day, if what you're doing is not working, I would recommend going and just giving it a go and trying and see what happens.
Yeah.
You know, the support group you were talking about.
Yeah.
Big help.
Yeah.
And you know, the emotions, and when you go to a support group, the emotions are all different at that one. You know, you all meet, and everybody's feelings and emotions are all different that day. We're not all feeling the same. Some people are really sad. Some people are okay that day, because every day is different in trauma and grief. And so it's interesting to, you know, listen to people's stories and absorb it, and just know that there's someone else there that is experiencing this. There's the range of emotions is amazing. And I'll say the the range of emotions, I'll tell you, are so, I think they're so extreme too. I know I went through a phase of falling asleep, bawling my eyes out, and waking up in the morning and realizing this is still going on, bawling my eyes out. And then I remember a couple times of, well, anger, of course, but then I remember like a point of actual rage that I felt inside of me one time. And it was so frightening to me that my brain and body felt such rage. I thought, oh no, that can never happen again. That's going to be a problem. So I had to deal with that. And I think a lot of health issues come on, very strange health issues people will have. I know I had a few of the strangest things happen to me health-wise. Just really odd, really strange things. Just from holding it in and all that toxicity and anger and sadness and despair. Despair. I remember that word.
I think a lot of people don't realize the physical damage trauma can do to a person.
Big time.
It's hard enough to deal with the mental part of it and the feeling part of it, but the physical part of it is just as big as everything else. And we had some health scares, we had health issues.
Definitely.
And
it's been fun to be connected for sure.
And as soon as you open up and you start talking about it, all of a sudden slowly you start feeling a little better. You know what? You're letting loose, you're letting things out which are helping you. And I think that's the big part. Another thing was with friends, family, relationships. Everything changes. You know what? You think that the people that are there for you before it happened are going to be there for you when after it happens. I've gone closer with a lot of friends that we were acquaintances. Like we remember every time we saw each other, hey, how you doing? Everything. And now they're my closer to me now than somebody I thought that would be there for me from till the end. And it gets to a point where you're like, okay, you know what? And I don't hold any grudges or nothing. And because I try to look at it from their side. Be like, you know what? If one of my best friends went through this, or my family, I wouldn't know how to react in front of them either. They're going through loss as well. They've been around since the birth of my kids, and so they're going through something obviously as well, and they just don't know how to respond or how to act around you anymore. It changes. And that took a little getting used to. At first I was getting mad. I'd be like, what's wrong with you, man? Like, you don't even call to check in on me, blah 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 blah. Then I thought about it. I thought, you know what, maybe he just doesn't know what to say. Like, what can you say? I'm supposed to call you and ask you how you're doing when I already know that you're not doing well. So it is a lot to something like this. It changes your world. It changes your everything. Relationships, thought process, how you view people.
Well, I have to say, I had a stand-up group of best friends. They were amazing. They still are amazing. My girlfriends, who we all raised, there's like 5 of us, maybe six of us, I think. That grew, our kids all grew up together. Our older kids grew up together, and Jalen was the youngest, so he grew up around all their kids. They're all their boys, and so he was like the younger brother to everybody. And those are my friends, and they were amazing. They still are. I could never have gotten through it without them. They're still awesome.
That's fantastic. Let me jump back a bit. You had mentioned the plea bargain, and then you were able to move on with some healing. Tell me about that process about the trial, the court system, and your decision, and
That
what?
was an angry day.
Yeah, it was. But I also, I knew details of what happened. Dawn didn't know. She didn't want to know.
Nope, I
And-
still don't. I don't need
And
to.
she still doesn't know.
No.
And thought about it.
Why would I?
And then they said there's a chance we can take you to court, but he could get acquitted. He could do this.
There was a
Like,
few factors.
right.
So this was a discussion between first-degree murder charges and second-degree murder charges? Is that what they were going through?
Second degree. They said there wasn't enough evidence for first degree.
There
So they
was?
said second degree murder.
Okay.
And so we met up with the prosecutors and we talked to them and said, look, we can pursue it, but I think we should take a plea. And they kind of explained the case they had, saying that if we do, he could get acquitted.
So
I
a
said,
plea is if they just admit guilt and
Yeah.
Yes.
compromise?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he said they agreed to, I think it was manslaughter.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
And so they got, I think they said 7 years. And I thought about it, talked to Dawn, and we were like, you know what? I'm not ready to put my family, relive everything all over again. We're finally getting to a point where we're starting to move forward. Then relive everything again and going into detail about it.
No, thank you.
I was like, I'm not putting my family through that.
And we weren't putting Jaylen through it. We weren't gonna have Jaylen, be it's the defense's job to break it down and make the victim look a certain way sometimes. And I was like, nope, and I'm not looking at pictures, and neither are the kids or our family. Forget it. But that came with, it comes with a plea bargain, and you have to make that decision. I can tell you, when I hit in the Crown and they explained it to us, I was beyond mad.
Yep.
Beyond mad.
Yep.
I think I left the office.
Yeah, you stormed out.
I did. And kicked the door on the way out, I think.
Mhm.
But when the guys, like when I had explained it, when they explained it, I said, kind of, we back and forth and they gave us some time and we just looked at each other and said, let's do it. Because it meant he had to plead guilty. It meant he couldn't appeal it. And that was a big one. And then the publication ban on his name could come off, and his DNA needed to be on file. And all those things mixed together between, he could have got, if convicted, I think it was 12 years.
Yeah.
It was between 10 and 12 years. And he got 7 and a bit, but plus he already had something else. So it ended up being a little bit more, 8-ish.
Mhm.
But that's not that far off. And really, to go and get 2 extra years, hopefully, and put us all through such trauma and misery and drag my son's name through the mud or anything, absolutely not. Nope, wasn't happening. So that's how we came to that decision.
Okay.
It was a hard pill to swallow, though. It was not easy.
But at the end of the day, we're like, no, we're not reliving this. Like I said, we're moving forward. And he'd consumed me enough.
Mhm.
I couldn't, you know what? His karma is going to come.
Yeah.
He's a bad egg, and his karma will come. And
No remorse
nothing.
whatsoever.
Oh yeah, at the sentencing, he was staring at me laughing, and
Wow.
and I was trying to stay calm because I didn't want people to think that, oh, this is why this happened to Jay, because look at his dad's going crazy, he's hothead, this and that. And I stayed calm and I just looked at the sheriff, and the sheriff's like, you need to calm down. I go, I am calm, but you need to stop him from looking at me and laughing about what's going on right now. And they took a recess and they took him to the back and they talked to him. And after that, everything was calm, whatever. But yeah, no, I was like,
yeah,
the consumption of him in my life at that point was way too much. And when it came to sentencing 7 years, you know what? It doesn't matter if you got 27 years, 77 years. My son's gone. He's
yeah,
not coming back.
yeah.
And his karma will come when it comes. You
Mhm.
know what? But my job is not for him to consume me. It's my job is to keep my son's memory alive. And that's what I think people need to focus on.
And I think a lot of people look for the answer through the perpetrator. So the perpetrators, you know, caught, arraigned, arrested, all that stuff. It goes to trial. And a lot of people I hear say, I just want to know why. I want to know why. And they wait for that person to give them the answer. That person has no, they really don't owe you anything. And they don't have to tell you why. And
We still
don't
don't
hold
know
your
why.
breath.
Yeah.
We still don't know why,
He
really.
refused to say it.
Yeah. So,
Because all he said was, we got into a fight. I go, is that what you call it? I just want people to know, honor your loved ones, keep them alive, keep their memory going.
Yeah.
Don't let the media, the justice system take away from that. You know, I see a lot of people that they focus so much on the perpetrator that they forget about the victim. And it's not right. It's not right.
Yeah, I hear you.
And like I said, don't set yourself up for disappointment. That's all you got to do. You're gonna be disappointed with what comes out in the end. And I hate to say that, but
well, you mentioned it doesn't change that Jaden's gone.
Yeah.
Whether it's
Look at the Surrey
7
Six.
years. Yeah.
This guy, they got evidence on him, everything, and he's still, you know, you can name all these.
There's 6 families that have gone through so many trials. I don't know how they do it.
Yeah.
And they're so strong. But I mean, their life's been consumed with loss. And it's just, there's so much. Yeah. I think consuming your life with the loss and not consuming your life with the life, it is a huge factor. Because when someone passes and someone's taken through homicide, we see the horrific, the sad, the grief, all of that, and then we forget the person was a person with a life. It might be a short life, like Jaylen, but I can remember literally from the time he was born up to the last day I saw him. So vividly, because that's 17 years of birthdays and Christmases and hugs and snuggles and all that kind of mom stuff, right? And so just to know that him and I were really close, and I think that's super cool. Because you could have a kid for their whole life and you're not close, you know, kids aren't always close with their parents, but I had him for 17 years and he was always by my side. Always.
I'm glad to hear
It's pretty
that.
cool.
Yeah. And you guys, you are to be commended for just the way you've dealt with this, and in that it seems that you are flourishing now and able to incorporate this into your life. And so I am, I think it's great to see. I know, like you said, everyone's different. They're going to handle it all differently, but, and your work towards the Jaylen Foundation, I know you're interested in helping others. And Danny, you kind of co-facilitated a men's grief group for a bit there. So that's all to be commended. It's super amazing to see in the face of your loss. So
thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say one more thing is, a lot of people say time will heal, time will heal. Time doesn't heal. It doesn't heal.
Yeah, it doesn't make things perfect.
It doesn't make things, you know what? You just learn to live with it.
You learn to.
And you know what? It's been 6 years and I still cry. It's okay to cry. You know what? I just want people to know that it is okay to cry, because you will feel better once you get it out of you. And I've just we've learned to live with it and move forward from it. And so if somebody says time will heal, you'll forget about this. No, you won't. It's not something you forget about.
No,
Try
right?
again. Try again.
it's not something you move on with. It's you move forward.
You move forward.
Move forward.
With them in your heart.
Yeah.
And your soul and your and
The
around
memories.
you and the memories and just, you know.
Every night before we go to bed, we have a picture in our room and we light a candle for me every night.
We do. The tea light.
Yeah. And
That's nice. So that's one of your
For
rituals.
6 years.
yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's
Hey,
great to
thank
hear your
you.
story.
Yeah.
Love you
I
guys.
hope people know that, you know, being able at this point, I think it's really important that people understand that, you know, it takes some time to get to a point to be able to talk and not completely, you know, fall apart, break down, all that kind of stuff. And it takes a bit of time, but it's not, we definitely don't want people to think it's like, it's an easy thing. But there's other ways you can take your energy, that anger, that grief, and put it into something positive. It's really helpful.